So I'm gonna be taking the L a bit on this one. I opened up logs.df partway through their interview, right? I'm gonna check some logs for B&H Paul, look at the B&H versus Home Depot match, season some 25 maybe playoffs, and yeah, logs.tf having some issues right now. A lot of less than savory textual elements, let us call it. False logs, if you will, even. And not very familiar with editing. At a relative time step, but it's like I really don't know how to edit that well, so I'm just taking the L here. I'm gonna be honest with you, and there's gonna be no visual elements for the Paul upload. Sorry. I'm going to be interviewing B&H Paul, and I think this one could kind of be relatively in the same spirits as the Katrina one, just coming at from a perspective of a long-time former leader. I don't know about like leading as much in the present, if that's something you do. I think it's something that Chalk mostly does these days for B&H, but it would definitely be interesting to just get a sense of all that lore and history and what it's been like, what the culture has been, and how it's sort of changed over time. Go on and introduce yourself.
I am Paul. I've been playing this game for longer than I should, and I've mainly been known for my name and the clan tag I used to wear a lot. So that's kind of my reputation in a nutshell.
Hmm. Okay. And how did you settle on Paul as an alias? It seems so mundane, but then like just that mundaneness of it makes it uniquely powerful.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people. It kind of has the same energy to it as a lot of other names. Like Dave, is another one that people kind of has the same ring to it at least. But how I got the name at least, it was just well, one is my name actually. So surprise, surprise. I don't know, but it's also because I used to have a really like kind of cringe Minecraft username. It used to be called like Pixel Art Paul, and eventually, after like a year or two on Steam, I figured I should cut that part out because I was like not 12 anymore. So it kind of just left it as my name, which it could be a little bit basic, yeah, but I didn't really have anything else better to come up with at the time.
Hmm.
And eventually, the clan tag got stuck with it, and then yeah, there you go.
Fair enough. It just sort of got immortalized. Okay. How do you feel about other Minecraft-like usernames, like a good old Super Luigi 9624 back in the day? Was that something you were like, wow, these guys are chumps when you look and saw it? Is that what motivated you to change it?
I don't personally judge usernames, but no, it was way before I met anyone, and it was like actually right before I started competitive. I dropped the other part of my name, like so. Thankfully, I never have like if you go to my prior like team history on UGC, you don't see it as like that. It's just because once I
Right.
got in competitive, it was already Paul by then.
Right. So we just get to see the Paul of Fame. Uh,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
yeah. There's a lot of people make friends with the name too. It rhymes with a lot.
I've ruined everything. Paul of Fame. Okay, so how do you initially get into casual TF2?
Casually said.
Yeah.
Uh, Actually, I used to know a friend back in like well, I was going to school with him my entire life essentially, and he's one that got me into Minecraft too. So essentially, this is a one big domino effect. But eventually, in 2014, he's like, "Yo, you should get on Steam." So he convinced me to make a Steam account, and he gifted me Unturned, which I never played. And he eventually got me to install TF2, which took like 7 hours. God, it's such a grind with my internet. But yeah, it's eventually he just got me into TF2, and then yeah, I just kind of I don't think there's a day outside of like when I was like really busy where I just didn't play it. I played it like almost every day. It was ridiculous. Like and eventually he stopped at like 900 hours, and I'm still going at like almost 13K. So it's kind of ridiculous. So I guess all because of a friend I used to know.
I see. And what? How did that end up translating to you getting into competitive? Was it just like you're putting so much time into it already that it just was a sort of natural transition for you?
Well, yeah, it's a kind of weird, but I think I didn't really know about competitive that much. I kind of knew vaguely, but I had no idea how to get into it. I was always kind of afraid to like actually like sit down and figure out how to get into it and all that. So I just kind of I didn't even really watch it either. So it's kind of just a blur until I started hearing more and more about it. Like I used to play on this achievement server. That's actually where I met Poseidon, and he was talking about competitive with some other random guy in the server, and I was like, okay, that seems a little bit interesting. And also, I started playing TF2 Center a little bit too, because I was just like, I might as well practice. But I never actually figured out how to get on a team until I asked one of my friends. I think he actually still plays sixes. I forgot his name, but some roamer, and he's just like just go on the forums and make an LFT, and I was like, oh, okay, is that easy? And also some inspiration was I also just kind of wanted the metal. Honestly, they look really cool. I really wanted the eagle ones at the time, but I didn't know they like rotated them out. So I kind of just wanted the badges, and yeah, so I finally found my way onto the forums and made an LFT, and then yeah, the rest is history from there. And that was like that was like January 2016, I believe.
Oh wow, decent bit ago now.
It's crazy it's been that long, yeah. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
it's been compared to other people, but still like over 6 years, which is ridiculous.
Do you recognize many names from back then?
A little bit. I actually didn't really pay attention much to players back then, but I know Katrina was definitely around at that time, at least more in the summer 2016. She rang for us once, and that's actually why I added her on Steam. Um, Poseidon's still around. He's probably the oldest player I know. I didn't really talk to him in 2015 much, but I didn't know we did know of each other's existence because he would always outsnipe me on the server when I was a sniper main. And yeah, that's about it. A few minor other people, but yeah, I definitely know a few people from back then, but it's mainly my friend circle rather than just in general.
I see it. That makes sense, yeah. Is it the sort of thing where it's just like when you're starting out, you're just not really that caring of the wider community? Like you just sort of pay attention to you and your own friends, yeah?
Yeah, that was a good way of putting it. Like I wasn't really, I'm still not really involved in much. I don't even really pug that much, but like, yeah, I just wasn't really paying attention to everything around me back then. Not even the admins. I didn't even know my division admin, any of that shit. For like that, yeah.
Hmm. And did you know you were kind of like gonna play heavier from the start of it? Like, is that something you started doing in casual? Like, what led to you playing heavy in Highlander?
It's actually a good question because back when I first started, I didn't really have a main. I just main whatever I felt like at the time. Like I main sniper for like 3 months, I think, then spy for a couple months in 2015, and at the time when I made my LFT, it was actually originally for engineer. My LFT was LFT engineer, heavy, and scout. But since no one really plays heavy, or at least I'm assuming back then, and they asked me to try out heavy. I never got any other tryouts. Just like I got two offers, and I only stuck with the first one. But I never got any engineer tryouts or anything like that. But yeah, originally it was engineer. I started. I think fully committed to heavy after I got on a Highlander team. Which I mean I played him a little bit before. I only had like 200 hours on heavy, but like yeah, that's why I fully committed to it. Was after I started maining in Highlander.
Hmm. And is that when you touched Heavy's gun?
Yeah, essentially.
That's such a good one. I love it.
Yeah, the closed caption. For some reason I didn't know what you were talking about, but I forgot the captions on YouTube were like display my name for some reason.
Yeah, they just knew. They foretold the future. Being age
So, yeah, I have that on my profile now. It's funny
Hmm.
that I forgot about it.
Do,
It's classic.
do you think it was a prophecy? Did you
I
watch
guess
it?
I guess in a way, yeah.
I see. I see. Valve can predict the future. Hmm. Okay. And what was it like starting out as a heavy in Highlander back then?
It was actually really fucking easy because I might have been over prepared a little bit, which slowly wore off over time as I climbed up the ladder. But back in Iron, I started at like I had like 3,000 hours at the time with like over 100 lobbies, which isn't much, but for an Iron, it apparently was. Like I think my first scrim, I almost won my first ever scrim. I would say February 2016. It was Badwater against some random players. Don't remember any of them, but I almost went on a godlike, and I was like, this is awesome. It was great, and I was getting probably eating up too many heals too. But yeah, it was amazing the first couple weeks for the first season. Actually, there's so many good moments where I was just like, I'm just king of the team right now. Like it's awesome. The only one that was like kind of like getting as many frags as my sniper because sniper. So it was great at the start.
Hmm. And it was sort of like a marathon, kind of like initially you just like sprinted forward, and then you encountered struggle, and as you kind of moved on.
Oh, definitely. Steel for some reason I don't remember that many highlights of Steel because and that was the season because when I started in Iron, the next season they just got rid of it. So I was still in the lowest div in season 20. So for some reason that season wasn't that like good for me, and season 21 was just really bad. And season 22 was like I kind of had like one more good season where I got a lot of good plays. But after that, so that's when I really like kind of went downhill or maybe just stagnated. I don't know. But after season 23 where I started like hard suck silver, yeah, I kind of just stagnated after that.
Hmm. And do you could you kind of attribute to that to like the rate of which you initially kind of progressed and moved through the divisions? Do you feel like you just kind of didn't end up progressing enough compared to the other people you played with due to that initial starting advantage?
Yeah, I probably just didn't progressive enough. Like it's a class that's not that good in general, but you can make it work sometimes. But I just wasn't I guess good enough to push it that far. So I kind of just stagnated at the time,
I
and
see.
maybe a little bit a little bit now, honestly too.
I respect the humbleness. So, were you leading from the start, or like, what sort of led you to becoming the leader for Blackjack and Hookers, if not?
That's a good question. Originally I did not want to lead it whatsoever. I was just like, there's no way I'm gonna be a good idea for that. Like that's just gonna easily mess up instantly. So season 19, 20, 21, I was just like, no, I'm just there. I'm playing the heavy. That's it. But in season 22, I was the co-lead with because we kind of had the comeback season because our original B&H team died in season 20 after 2 seasons, and then I did some other stuff with most of the B&H members. We made a team called the Best Fair Process, which was kind of its own legacy team to an extent. And after that, we came back. We did a comeback season with my old leader, Phoenix and Lorgon, and I decided to be a kind of a co-leader, but I didn't really do much. But after that season, though, everyone literally left. For some reason, I thought, let's keep the team alive. So out of the 9 players, I even actually out of the entire 21 players on the roster, everyone left except my soldier and my pyro sub. And I just decided, let's just lead it from here for some reason, and now it's just yeah, the rest is history. And it was an uphill battle that season to get 6 other players. I mean, 7 other players on your team, but it ended up working for like really well actually.
Hmm.
I don't think I could ever replicate that after. Well, I did once, but I don't think I could ever replicate that now, at least.
Hmm. And why do you think that is? Like, has it been
Oh,
just like a sort of cultural shift in the players and like leadership in teams, or like, do you think it was just really all down to luck?
a little bit of luck, but there's definitely a little less players. I remember there's a lot of people. I got a lot of tryouts that season, even though it was a pain to get 7 people, 7 other people. There's definitely a good amount of tryouts. Just none of them were ticking. But now of them nowadays it's more like a little bit harder to find. Or maybe I'm just like I could be wrong, but it's just not as many players.
I see. Do you think it's due to the division sizes, maybe, that it's harder to find like an adequate an adequate amount of players within the Ranger?
That could actually be a thing. I never thought about that, but yeah, silver used to just be this one huge division. Like they got rid of iron. I mean, that didn't really matter. But they got rid of gold, so that kind of made it a little bit. They kind of expanded the division a little bit back then,
But even then, it was like the average division was like fairly larger than most, like than the relative RGL comparisons. Yeah.
for sure. Like silver was like I can't remember the average amount of teams, but there was that good amount. I think 23 had like about 30-ish. A lot, obviously like a good chunk died because that's just how it is in Highlander. But there's like 30 teams in silver. It was pretty ridiculous at the time.
Hmm. And do you think it was harder to progress through the divisions back then, past like Steel?
Yeah, depends, yeah, but obviously since they got rid of gold, it was a little bit harder. Well, and then again, I've heard a lot of stories of people getting hard stuck gold. So, but yeah, for me, I'd never really got the chance to move up to platinum when it was still good. So I would say it's kind of hard depending on like how good you are as a player and all that.
Hmm. And do you think that maybe added more health to the scene of the game per se compared to the modern day, where it's like a lot easier to just speed through the divisions and move up?
I'm actually not sure, but I know at least for RGL, it's definitely like it's easier to climb until you get to like advanced, I think. And then like I don't really see it's I don't see many players like speedrunning and then just going to invite that often.
Right.
Inv-
Invite's basically impossible.
Yeah, invite's kind of slowly slowing down for players, but who knows? It could change any second. It's hard to predict stuff like that, but yeah, it's easy to speedrun until you get to that point at least, which is sort of mirrors UGC a little bit.
I see. I see. But then it's like a bit worse, kind of with just like how many more teams there were back then compared to now, kind of within the divisions.
Yeah, it's I haven't been paying attention to lower divisions in RGL, but back then there's a lot of players. Like my first season of Iron, there's a ton of teams. It was helped that it was a summer season too, but yeah, there's a lot of teams in Iron. And, like the lower divs were crazy huge back then. Even like they were even larger before I started. Like there was a point where they had to split them up into two, like Iron, Red, and Blue. And that was pretty ridiculous. Steel as well, I'm pretty sure.
Which side are you on? Steel red or steel blue?
Yeah, that's just crazy. The fact that that many people were playing the game at some point. It's honestly fascinating. I wish I was around. I wish I started a little bit earlier.
Yeah, same here. I think I started on season 19 as well, yeah.
Yeah, that was a kind of a magical season for a lot of people. I know like so many people that started around that era, or at least like or 18 or 17, around that point in time in UGC history.
Hmm. Do you kind of miss those days looking back at it, just like the sheer amount of players in the game?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was definitely a little bit easier for scrims. I've noticed because there's just so many teams. I would just scrim teams. Like there's sometimes I scrim a team once an entire season, and we wouldn't even play them. We would not even play them during the season because there's just that many. But it's hard to say.
Hmm. Do you think there's more of a sense of like division identity and just sort of community between the teams in the divisions due to them being so much larger and there being a lot more players?
It's possible. I think it was just like easier to get scrims back then because I noticed like things were a little bit more intertwined because Discord wasn't really as popular. Well, it was still used, but it wasn't used for scheduling. And that was like kind of the last stand for when it came to Steam group stuff.
Hmm.
I noticed like they used to use Steam groups and just Steam DMs for scheduling stuff until like I would say the RGL Discord came around, or then people
Right.
just started using Discord from then.
So, do you think maybe there was just like a bit more of a personal element to things back then, and maybe that had a positive effect on the community?
Yeah, it's possible, but it's hard to say because I didn't I only scheduled I only scheduled scrims for 3 seasons before we moved to RGL.
Okay, okay. So, what was heavy like back then? Like, was there much of? Did you interact much with the other heavy mains? Was there much of a sense of class idea? Did you have any like collaborative discussions, roundtables, stuff like that?
Oh, not at all. Heavy's a pretty blend class. I personally still like it, but not much synergy. There's a few people outside the non-competitive heavy mains. There's like a weird cult going on. So for non-competitive heavy mains, I swear to God. But it's called like the Heavy Warriors or some shit. That's a whole different story. But as for competitive, yeah, no one really cares that much. And as for the class itself, it didn't really change when I was playing. The only thing that I wish I didn't um I wish I used more was the eviction notice because that was actually really good back then. It was basically just a better group in my opinion. And then but yeah, that was the only thing that really changed class wise was they nerfed the melee weapons, changed the damage a little bit, and that was it.
Hmm, I see. And do you think it would be like interesting or beneficial to see just more of a sense of collaboration between heavy mains, at least like from a purely social community side of it?
It's possible. It's just there's not really much to say. I've noticed like engineer mains like they're really tight sometimes because just like the class isn't strong either. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good class, but it's at least interesting. It's pretty. You can be very creative on engineer and all
Right.
that.
And pyro for that matter, like both of those two. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But heavy is just minigun, and that's it. There's
Hmm.
not much diversity in the playstyle unless you just want to troll.
I see. Have you ever considered making like a brass beast or Natasha cult and just forming like a heavy cartel where all the heavies run that and just ruin the game for everybody in competitive? And then if they try and cut any of the heavies, they all just quit and there's no heavy players left.
I'm not sure how to respond to that, but yeah, it would be kind of comical because people don't really like the Natasha. I think it's the worst one, but it's still fun. The Brass Beast, however, that shit's fun as hell. I used to run it sometimes in competitive, like on Upward First or CP Steel B point, but I remember Poseidon just was like, stop doing that. I'm like, okay, fine.
Hmm. Do you think you'd be interested in organizing this potential plan?
No.
No, not a fan of the heavy cartel.
Yeah, I just don't really talk to other heavy players that often. And honestly, I rarely interact with them. The only one I would say is it's people that are in my Discord that happen to play heavy.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Definitely fair to hear. Yeah. Hmm. So, how do you feel most of the Highlander maps are for heavy? Do you think like that most of them provide enough opportunity for heavy? Like, what are your sort of perspectives on the maps as a heavy main?
For the current pool for RGL, it's kind of interesting. It could go either way. Depends on what div you're into. Lower the div, anything can work. But I've noticed playing it. I actually got to play a full season and invite the last season for season 11, and there were some maps that I were just absolute agony for me. Cascade was pretty rough, but there's an under at least, so it's kind of fun. Product was kind of rough, but that might have just been my team thing. I'm not sure, but outside of playing Cliff, I don't really see much opportunity for heavy on product unless, like I said, they're just letting you walk at them, which I never get the blessing to do.
Right.
Upward's always fun on heavy. I mean, it's defense. You just sit in a spot and hope they feed into you. CP Steel's probably the best because there's not much area where they can just run away and like avoid you. Because like that's what heavy's like biggest enemies outside the other classes is just like a wall they can just go around, and it's like, well, shit. I can either keep slowly revving and walking at them, or I can unrev and risk getting just demolished. Like, so Steel's pretty good for that. A lot of them having to come to you along with other payload maps like
Right.
Swiftwater is pretty all right, I guess.
So,
And but mainly the cost maps are a struggle because sniper.
and do you think that's like an inherent problem with heavy and competitive, or do you think it's a sort of thing where it's just like the map creators don't like plan around or allow heavy players to sort of do enough?
It's more on the class than the map for the most part. Like when a sniper is owning, that's not just affecting the heavy, that's affecting everyone. When the snipers has like good positioning on stuff
Right.
like on Lakeside or something like that, he's just gonna destroy everyone. Like heavy just happens to be the easiest to hit.
Because he's so like out of position or like hard to rotate with, yeah. And that
Yeah, like making a map like balancing around like making sniper not as good, that's a pretty hard task. So I'm not sure how they're gonna. I don't have a
uh,
solution to that.
uh
I'm not a map creator.
how do you feel about no sniper zones where it's like if a sniper tries to enter a certain part of the map they get insta killed? Do you think that could have the change we need?
That'd be a little bit goofy, but I mean, I don't know. I think they just need to put a like. Sometimes they just need to wall off areas, so he has to like at least be a little bit more forward instead of
Right.
just sitting back and hoping the spy or other sniper gets him. Because if he's winning the SVS and the spy sucks, that's it. Every other class can't really do much. I mean, you can maybe spam a detonator or two at him, but you're not doing much. And
Right.
especially on heavy too. Like even Tomaslov or not, like you're not getting that sniper.
Or do you think maybe there could be like more of a risk sort of reward thing with sniper positioning? Like as a design philosophy, take like with some of the cascade changes where it's like you have to kind of push up more to like areas where you're more flankable to be able to have like a really strong sight line there.
Something like that. I think Asheville kind of does it all right because all the snipers bitch fast. They're not being a good sightlines. It's like good. You can do so much damage. Like, come on, give us some slack here.
Okay. How do you feel about head glitches, like sort of like crates or like around Lakeside? Maybe a bit of toxic as well. I guess like, do you think that's something that's like inherently important to heavy on competitive maps due to like
Oh,
spam and sniper?
oh, absolutely. Head glitch is like the only thing the class has going for it. I try to get as many head glitches as I can. Like, um, they changed one that was pretty sad, but yeah, the head glitches are the best. I think there's one on Millstone if you ever played that. That was probably the best head glitch.
Millstone.
Yeah, that was probably the best head glitch I ever experienced, and obviously Lakeside has a really nasty one if they feed into you. Um, so yeah, head glitch is probably the only thing, the only cool gimmick heavy has. So yeah, unless you're like really obsessed with like sandwich tossing, like there's really not much you can do. Heavy like head glitching is just like something that's like that's your one trick you can maybe pull on the enemy
Right.
team.
So do you think in like the maps where you sort of like struggle more as heavy typically, like would you advocate for just more like sort of head glitches or opportunities for heavy to really have more sort of impact there without entirely getting shut down by sniper?
It'd be nice, yeah, because there's a few maps where it's just I'm just out in the open. Like if you try to head, every time I tried to head glitch on rock, my team would just be like, "Don't stand there," and I don't blame them because I would just instantly get demolished. In Asheville, I don't really get a chance to play boxes that much, and obviously we don't play Millstone, and we didn't play Lakeside last season, so there's just not really many opportunities. But if it utilized correctly, it could be pretty nasty. I saw a couple of times on Asheville where the heavy's just on boxes, like getting a 3K, and it's like, well, this sucks.
Hmm. So I noticed that you like brought up Millstone. Yeah, is that something that you think would be kind of like interesting to play if it was like worked on more as a heavy player? Like, do you think there just needs to be more maps in the pool that can allow heavies to do things, or do you think it's just like good to have a bit more diversity in that sense?
It'd be nice, but I know for a fact no one's gonna ever want to play a map just because it's better for heavy. Not a single person outside of heavy mains, and Millstone especially. I had a blast on it. You know, I've never
But
had
yeah,
a bad
same here.
experience on Millstone. I've played it all three times it's been played. Season 20, 22, and the first XP Cup RGL hosted, and I won every single one. But I know for a fact no one likes that map except maybe other heavy players. No one liked it,
I like
and I
it.
can't. So I don't want to force them to play it again. But I personally enjoyed it.
Wait, does that make me a heavy main?
Possibly. I mean,
Shit.
I
Okay.
don't know. I haven't played on any other classes, so it might have been good for them too. But I only played on heavy.
Yeah, I think it was really fun for Soldier Power, but I think the main issue that people had with Millstone was like the developer not wanting to work with the community and make updates, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the whole lore behind that. I just remember it was originally like a Halloween map, and I'm like, how the hell did this get in?
Hmm. Yeah, it was interesting for sure. Okay. Hmm. Alright. Let me think for a second. Hmm. So, as a heavy player, do you find yourself usually more trying to be like the more aggressive member of your combo or the more passive between you and the pyro? Like, who do you think is usually better to have on exchanges as a general rule of thumb, or at least for you personally?
Oh boy, that depends. Usually, aggressive heavy. I personally think it sucks unless you like have a team with you because heavy's just mainly there to like soak up damage that so your demo doesn't die because you're not going to be the one doing damage. So I don't know. Pyro, I guess, could be a little bit more passive than heavy because heavy's just mainly that meant to take the damage, meant for other players. But in exchanges, sometimes I will admit, if they have to come into you, I do like it when a heavy takes an Uber. Like upward, say upward last, heavy is great for that. If you're like holding tiles and they have to come into you, like they're just gonna like they can't do anything. Like they can't just you're revved up, ready to shoot. Like they have to instantly like shred you, or else you're gonna farm them. I don't know. It could depend though, because heavy's really slow, so you're not going to be able to chase anything. So it's just like if it's the defensive Uber, heavy's pretty good. Like if there's like 3 seconds left on the clock on a Koth map, I usually like to take an Uber because just like they're feeding into you because they have to get to the point. That's where heavy shines is where they have to come to you. At least in my opinion.
Hmm, okay. So do you have other sorts of maps that you think really like play well to heavy or like that are really good for heavy on exchanges, like more aggressively speaking?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. Outside of steel's good for heavy, but I'm not sure how good it is for Ubered heavy.
Hmm,
I think it just depends on how the game's playing out because there's a huge jump between how heavy is and like lower divs and higher divs, at least in my opinion. Or I
right.
just suck. It's hard to say.
How about something like Vigil? Do you think that's a map where like you can be a bit more aggressive, typically as heavy, for exchanges and in general?
A little bit. I don't know about aggressive, but heavy Vigil is just a good heavy map as well for me. There's a lot of cool spots you can stand and just not die as often.
Right. Okay. So you'd say it's also kind of cool just having those like little spots, those little bits of cover that you can sort of just be a presence in, and it's like really easy to punish enemies for not knowing you're there. But then if they know they're there, it's like kind of they can kind of work around it, right? So it's interesting to have that dynamic where you're not necessarily like just standing next to combo.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of nice spots to stand because you just made me feel a little bit safe. I know as things have changed, heavy's more they put them on the flank a little bit more for modern vigil, which I'm pretty bad at doing that, but I try to. But yeah, it's just a good heavy map in general, I guess.
Hmm, okay. And do you find yourself naturally going to the flank much on maps like, let's say, Asheville, Product, I guess Vigil as well for that matter, Lakeside? Like, what are the sort of cases where you'd typically be more likely to rotate?
I'm very bad at flank heavy. I just personally think heavy's like meant to just be with the medic a lot because that's just what he's for. He's meant to protect the med and then eat damage. So it's hard for me to flank, but I don't know. It's just rough for me to play flank in general. Like product flank, not really my thing. I don't like playing concrete whatsoever. Like it's just really easy to like get rid of the heavy there. I've had so many times where my flank just kills the heavy, or like once you know he's there at least. Obviously sneaking up on people's good no matter what, but once you know he's there, it's just I don't see it being that good most of the time.
Hmm,
Unless the other team doesn't know how to counter it. And yeah, other and payload maps is kind of just yeah, that's usually not happening either.
right. Okay. How about the Thomas Lab? Do you think that sort of helps with that sort of goal at all?
Kind of. I think I don't know if it's a weird take or not, but I think the silent rev is overrated because people don't really utilize. There's rare instances where like someone's like, "Here's a heavy's minigun," and they're like, "Oh, shit, there's a heavy nearby." No, no, unless it's like in sixes or something. I don't. No one really actually pays attention to the rev sound unless they're like, at least from my experience. So I think the rev sound's kind of like not as good, but it's more the accuracy that matters for the
Hmm.
Thomas.
What
So it just
about
depends on like if they're farther away from you, it's a lot easier to use Tomislav for that situation.
what about the Thomas Lab? Like, so you don't have a rev sound for yourself, so you can maybe hear spy easier. Like, if you're playing more aggressively on the flank, do you think there'd be benefit for that?
Uh, I don't know about the rev sound like blocking out spies. I think that's more of like how loud your like game is. So I guess a little bit. It's also since you're playing Highlander, you're hearing 8 other people.
That's true.
That's the reason I struggle so much to sometimes when it comes to spies. Like I actually rely more on my like timing rather than my ears for at least Highlander. Sixes is like it's actually crazy how much I can hear 'em now that like less people are talking, but in Highlander's just a lot of people talking, so you have to like really mess with your volume to make sure you're like not getting obviously like ear checked and losing.
Right, okay. And do you usually find yourself committing from the same angles as your combo or slightly different angles? Like, let's say on mid fights on Asheville, would you ever find yourself going like crates and trying to set up a crossfire at all? Or do you usually find it more effective to just sort of stack more resources near your medic?
It goes either way. This season on Asheville, they would always tell me to like my team would like you're hugging the wall on the left, you do that, and I was fine with that. So I try to go boxes once for a while though, but for product it's kind of random. It just depends on what side they call the focus at. So that could be left or right. And Cascade, that's a mixed bag. Like I was going cave, I was going under, I was just going hard left, hard right. Like I was doing all kinds of stuff on the mid fights.
I see. Okay. And let's say on something like Lakeside, like, do you normally like end up being like the first one to rotate, or is it something you'd find yourself doing? Like, okay, the enemy has rotated things over to here. Like, are you usually the one to match that, or what? Like, do you let them do it first? Yeah.
I'm not sure. When it comes to Lakeside rotations, I kind of just like stay on a side. I want to stay on a side where there's less spam or where the sniper's not looking.
Hmm.
Because I love
Okay.
playing head glitch, but if he's bats, I cannot play there.
Well, like, I guess my general question is, do you think it's better to wait for the enemies to send resources onto the flank and sort of match that, or like increase your commitment to the flank and wipe them out? Or do you think it's usually better to be the team that sends more people to the flank first?
It just depends. I guess it just depends on how much their flank's like a problem. Like at least on product, if their scout and soldiers just constantly winning, or like they have an extra player and you don't, that's usually when you want to like send some extra resources over there. For at least in my opinion. So I guess it just depends like how much you're needed over there. At least I don't know. Some people like to play concrete on product in general, but for
Hmm.
me, I rather just like only go over there if it's like we really need it. And
Right.
Pyro can just stay with the combo, or vice versa. Sometimes you can send the Pyro over there, but
Okay. Um.
Pyro's a little bit more versatile when it comes to denying stuff.
Right. Right. Because it's like they can physically reflect it. Whereas if heavy, if you don't stall them initially, like they can still die fairly easily. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just like push everything away. It's great, but yeah, you get the idea though.
Hmm. How much time do you usually spend spy checking?
A good amount. The like, on product, I spy check a lot. Asheville, I spy check a lot. It's really just combat. If I'm in a singular spot and I don't have to worry about other stuff, because there's sometimes where it's hard to check for bombs and for spies. But
Right.
for the most part, I do spy check a lot because I do. Sometimes I over spy check and then I just get nothing done. Or sometimes the spy's just winning anyways. But I do like to try to spy check as much as possible because yeah, it's a one shot. Don't
How
want that to happen.
How about during Uber exchanges? Like, is it normally something where it's like you're thinking the spy is going to go on like right when you start to walk and try to aggress yourself, so you will turn around? Or do you think it's more important to just keep forward committing as a heavy and rely on something like your pyro to deal with spy there?
Depends. Usually spies like to go in right. Sometimes spies used to go. At least when I used to play a lot in silver, they would always like be ready right before we were about to take an Uber. So I'd like to check there, but yeah, I guess just try to check before an Uber charge. I guess,
Hmm.
but during an Uber charge, it's a little bit hard to focus. Like think about a spy, but before definitely.
Right. Okay. And do you find yourself as heavy, just like being kind of like slow, clunky, like a tank like class? Do you find yourself just trying to think of like what the enemy team sees based off your positioning? Like, do you ever try and like feign a rotation or rotate a little bit away to bait them into making a play you'd want them to make? Like, let's say on product, moving a little bit away from cliff to try and force them to bomb, to like entice them to bomb into you so you can get like picks or anything? Or is that like usually not like that deep?
I don't know if anyone like. I could be wrong, but I don't know if anyone looks into it that hard because I don't know. Heavy's just kind of there, but sometimes I do like to bait them in, but usually not in situations like that.
Right. Okay.
It's just kind of tricky.
Fair enough. So, do you think the culture around just sort of combo like heavy's positioning, like heavy versus pyro, when it comes to aggression versus passiveness, like do you think that's something that's sort of changed much since you started, or has it stayed kind of consistent or just team based?
I think it's just a div difference. Like at least back in the day, like if I like started in like 2014, I could probably tell you a lot of differences because heavy used to be really good back then. But for my personal experience, it's just more so like just div difference, honestly. Like, lower divs, you kind of just get away with whatever, but the higher divs, you kind of like you just get shut down a lot easier, honestly. Like heavy, you could just get like just absolutely destroyed, now, like an invite. Like it's really tricky sometimes.
So wait, you said heavy used to be better.
Yes. I didn't get to play with it too much because they basically nerfed it by then. But heavy used to have a lot more damage, and heavy used to be like the center of the combo compared to Demo Man now.
Ah, okay. And was that something that sort of took you time to adjust to, like going from casual to competitive or anything like that?
A little bit, because casual, I usually just someone would just wind up pocketing me, which will happen a little bit in Iron, not gonna lie. And I'd just take a bunch of heals. But after the heals went away, it's like, shit, man, this is actually getting hard.
Right. Okay.
Because you want to rather tank the demo than the heavy, unless it's situational.
How about like spies? Like, have you like had to change the way you play around spy since you started? Like, have the spy players sort of changed at all?
Oh yeah, they took a big hit after the ambi nerf. It was a great in Iron when a bunch of spies just sit somewhere far away and like miss all their ambi shots. They hit it once every while, and it did suck when my med takes 102 damage and they can't do anything about that. But man, was it fucking hilarious seeing like a bunch of spies sitting back and missing all the ambi shots, and they would go in left for stabs. It was great. Nowadays, like it's kind of a mix. Like spies like are a lot better with timing now. Obviously, an invite, and they sometimes even if they're not going for stabs, they have a gun, like a actual like a gun, not a non gimmick gun. So that's kind of a pain to look out for. Sometimes you just sit back and calm. So it's actually kind of sometimes it's even trickier to predict what they're gonna do because they either just sit back and do nothing, or they could be really aggressive about it, or like they know how to coordinate. That those always suck. Like yeah.
Okay. Do you ever find yourself just trying to intentionally like surf rockets or like spam or anything to bomb into the enemy team as heavy? Or do you think that's a bit of a flawed theory?
Oh yeah, but surfing rockets, like it's kind of tricky as a heavy. I've done it a few times, but one time I just winded up getting an air shot, so it's kind of hard because heavy's just not that mobile.
I see, I see.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
a fun Asheville scrim.
Alright. Um, okay. What was the player culture like back then? Like the social side of the scene? Like how did people usually act? Has there been sort of any real change in that?
Um, Honestly, like I said, I wasn't around too much in the community wise when I first started, but from at least from my perspective, I honestly don't think much has changed.
And what do you say that's a good thing or a bad thing? Like do you think more
Uh,
needs to have
it's
changed?
it's pretty neutral, honestly. It can be bad and good
Hmm.
because it could be
Okay.
a lot worse, but it also could be a lot better. Like players have just been they BM the same, they talk shit the same. Like not much has changed at
Hmm.
all.
And do you think people get kind of like bogged down in that and just end up not really being able to or being willing to make change just due to that sort of neutral is good mindset?
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. Like people on the internet, that's just how they act. Like, and I don't know. It's just, at least for TF2, it could be different in other places, but it just always seems like nothing has changed.
Yeah, but do you think just sort of like accepting that sort of belief maybe leads to nothing actually changing in reality?
I don't know if anyone like intentionally accepts the belief, but I guess yeah. I guess in a way, they're just
Yeah.
kind of complacent with how things are. Like no one's actually gonna go out of their way to improve stuff. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like it'd be nice, but it's just TF2 at the end of the day. Like no one's
Yeah.
gonna think about being proper, having proper manners on online.
Okay. What was it like leading back then? Has like sort of the culture around leading changed at all over the years?
A little bit. I know scrims are a little bit goofier to schedule sometimes. Like I've noticed some people are scheduling like several weeks in advance, and it's like, okay, guys, let's take it easy here. But um, leading has been kind of it's hard to say actually. It seems pretty similar, but there's definitely a change. Maybe I'm a little bit more nostalgic for UGC, but there's definitely a change. But I just don't know how to pinpoint it. But
Hmm. Do you
it feels slightly different though.
do you think most teams just don't really end up using subs that much?
Yeah. I mean, there's less roster space. I forgot about that, but I don't know. This depends on your teammates, I guess.
Okay.
I will admit there were less. I did have to have less players on the team though, so I mean that kind of helped. I mean, kind of sucked, kind of didn't. It's I don't know.
Right. Okay. Um, were people like more committed back then, more kind of caring about being on a team?
Oh, that's actually interesting because like it feels like they cared a little bit more. At least from my perspective, it felt like they cared a little bit more during UGC, which is weird because there wasn't like a prize pool or anything.
Hmm,
And now there, I mean, there was not a prize pool anyways if you're not an invite, but I don't know. I did feel like UGC they did care a little bit more.
right. Do you think that was just due to how many people were in each div? Like there was more of a sense of competition and pride in it?
That could be it. I never thought of it like that because silver was like winning silver. Like it wasn't the most prestigious accomplishment, but it was. It did mean it did kind of mean something at one point.
Hmm, okay. So yeah, that could be it. Yeah. Okay. Maybe like people are also just like more optimistic in general about the game back then. Like so it's something they were more willing to invest passion and care into, like while it was still relatively being updated.
Possible, yeah, because Jungle Inferno was late October. I think it was October 2017, and that's also around the same time I started leading. I started leading like literally like I think July 15th, 2017. So they definitely the update definitely helped bring life into the game. Like they changed a bunch of weapons and made things interesting. I could see it.
Okay. Alright. And do you think teams were like more of a like? Do you think they individually had more of a sense of community? Like, do you think there were more people just like hanging out, doing out of game stuff with their teammates back then?
It's hard to say. I think that just depends on the team. But with Discord being a thing, that could help to improve it a lot. But I mean, people probably still hung out in Mumble anyways. But I think Discord being a thing helped out with that a lot. So that just kind of depends on the team at this point, whether you guys hang out in Discord or whatever.
Hmm, okay. So it's just like yeah, it's not really like the culture itself shifting just as much as like the accessibility of it in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember for us, we just kind of like we just kind of naturally started to, like wanted to hang out after scrims. Like we sit in the Mumble for like hours after scrims, and then eventually you got Discord, and then yeah, the rest became history.
Right. So, how do you think Discord impacted the community? Like, do you think it led to there being just more drama due to it being more accessible and like not really as administratable? Like, do you think it sort of like became a lot more fragmented per se socially due to people just having all those small private servers?
I think it just moved the problem somewhere else because before Discord was like a thing, I think it was just on the forums. But
Right.
Discord definitely did help spread it a little bit more. I noticed a lot more shit gets spread now.
And do you think that's had like a negative effect on just like the people of the game, like socially speaking?
To an extent, I guess, but I wouldn't know what to say for sure.
That's fair, yeah. And do you think there's something that could sort of like be done? Like, do you think do you kind of miss how it was back with the forums compared to now?
It depends. Like, I didn't really use forums that much outside of looking for players and stuff, so it's hard to say. But I don't know if there's really much you can do without because you're not. No one's gonna want to get in trouble for saying stuff on a private Discord. Like, it's just kind of how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's true. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Do you have any experience with just sort of how like non-competitive people treated casual? Like, I other way around, casual, non-competitive people like were treated the game like I guess like the casual players. Jumbled the phrasing around a bit. Like
I was just
has
saying, like, how competitive people view casual players, or vice
other
versa.
way around, other way around.
Oh, so how casual people view competitive
Yeah,
players, then.
has that sort of
Uh,
changed over the years?
Honestly, yes, to an extent, because it's actually kind of weird now. It depends on the players, but I notice a lot that think like competitive. A lot of casual players either don't know about it, or they don't care about it, or they just think it's a joke because of Valve matchmaking. There's actually a handful of people I've met that think competitive comes down to competitive matchmaking, and that makes me sad.
And do you think that sort of like did damage to competitive at all? Just like the integrity of it, the sort of accessibility of it, the reputation of it, like, and people's sort of willingness to really care about it?
Yeah, I think competitive matchmaking kind of screwed over the reputation a little bit, but like I said, it's just TF2 as a game in general. It's not even like a casual versus competitive thing. It's just the game is like so goofy, but at the same time, taken seriously, it could really thrive. So it's just like a natural divide between the two. So it
And
kind of just depends on who you are as a player and how you feel about the game.
what do you think could be done to heal that divide?
Well, updates would help, but I guess just updating it in a like finding like a middle ground between the communities because there are some changes that are made for casual players and some that were made for competitive
Hmm.
players, and both of them hate each other.
How
Because
about
when they nerfed AMB, all the Spider-Man's like, "Why'd you do that?" Or they changed a bunch of weapons to make them unbanned in sixes, and then they made them bad. Like it's just weird sometimes with that.
hmm. What do you think the community can do about it though? Like the like players, the leagues, the admins, because like if Valve doesn't give a solution to us, what can we do about it? Like, do you think it's the sort of thing where it's like there needs to be more content creation and collaboration between competitive and community influences to sort of help humanize both sides of the game?
That'd be nice. I don't know if how much we can do, but I will admit there is not much when it comes to at least when I see TF2 YouTubers, it's a very very rare case where like they actually play competitive and talk about it.
Right. So maybe it's like we could like go out there and do some like try and do content creation and just sort of make the community seem like an actual community again instead of just like two kind of fragmented parts of one community.
Yeah, that definitely help, but it just depends on who would actually want to watch it. But definitely would like to see more like mainstream TF2 YouTubers like advertise competitive. I know Muselk technically did it one time and no one liked that, but that did help. That did technically help increase, even if the players were like probably a pain to deal with on TF2 Center. It's still good to see new influx of players. Like you gotta baby them sometimes and wait for them to actually like understand stuff. Like my first lobby was just awful. I didn't even know how Mumble worked. I'm surprised they didn't get kicked. So you just gotta hold their hand a little bit
Hmm.
until they can get the hang of it.
Okay. Um, what do you think the leagues can do to help out us on that front?
Not sure. I mean, they try to advertise, but it's just tricky. It's just depend. It's just more of like if people actually care enough to look into it,
Hmm.
because sometimes the streams even got to get announced in game. Like I
Right.
don't know what else there's to do outside of that. I even see people post on Reddit. I think I've seen like Exa and Sigafu post on Reddit a couple times.
Do you think it's like they could maybe do like more content creation as well? Like for instance, on their RGL YouTube channel, just having more sorts of like guides and general resources out there for newer people.
Yeah, that could help. I remember like the RGL YouTube, like they do a couple things that try to like just kind of bring in more people, but
They did back when Maven was not really anymore though.
yeah, it's just weird
Okay.
because the videos were just kind of strange in my opinion, but yeah, they're on the right track at least.
Yeah. Okay, that's definitely fair. Hmm. Okay. All right. Is there anything you think UGC did better at than RGL, like as a league?
Uh, I guess the staff are actually a little bit less like dumb to say the least. Like UGC staff, it was always like one person had like a lot of control over other stuff, and like all the other admins were like couldn't really do much. But RGL's a little bit more evened out, I've noticed. But I don't know, I actually never really had any interactions with UGC admins. I've only had like a few with RGL, but no, not really UGC outside the one that was on my team for a couple seasons.
Oh, what was that like?
It was interesting. I mean, they weren't. They did. I don't think they became head admin until season 25, I believe, which is the last season, proper season of UGC, from my opinion. And yeah, they were an interesting character, that's for sure. They weren't really like they were fun to be around. They were a good friend of mine for a bit. And but outside like some personal drama that happened between the two, like us and like her and the team, like her being an admin, I think she did all right.
Hmm.
Well, I've definitely had improvement from Kimori, if that was like even though that bar's kind of low.
Okay. Um, do you think that most of the admins like ultimately do just kind of like care about the game, but then just aren't always able to like express it or make the decisions they want to make for the community?
UGC or RGL or both.
I'd say both. Or you can talk about each group individually if you want to.
Yeah, that would work. UGC, I actually have no clue. I don't know why they do it. I really don't. I don't understand. I don't think they want to do it. I just feel like they have. They feel like they need to need to. Obviously I can't read their minds, but man, are they? They feel like they're dead inside sometimes. We're still running that husk of like whatever the hell that is. RGL, I think they are a little bit more passionate though, because there's like at least something to work towards. But
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. That's That's definitely fair. Yeah. So, what were some of your favorite memories from sort of like leading the team back then? Like, how did that impact you as a person? Is it something that you feel like just kind of helped shape who you are today?
In a weird way, it kind of did, because it actually did help me like open up a little bit more to people I didn't really know. Because I didn't really have much like, I didn't really interact that much with people from my school back then. So Discord and like the people I met through TF2 were kind of like the only people I really talked to, and they all conveniently were around my age for the most part. And like I don't know, it just kind of helped me like socialize a little bit more, even though like it was still online and all that. But it's still like nice. It kind of helped me open up. It also got me like it actually got me into the habit of like scheduling stuff. Like I just like have like a force of habit now of just like having to like schedule stuff like properly. Like even if it's like a real life event, I just want to make sure I schedule it now. It's kind of like a just a habit from leading. I guess you could say.
Dinner scrum, 9:30 Eastern.
Yeah, just something like that. Just when I'm hanging out with people in real life, it's just like yeah, I just want to know like what time and all that.
Hmm. Do you regret like any part of being a leader? Like, is were there any like really negative parts of it that kind of impacted you as a person?
Oh, actually, yeah, big time. There's a few instances where my team, for the most part, was pretty good. We didn't have many incidents outside after at least when I took over. My co-leader, I mean, not co-leader, my old leader Phoenix had some issues to say the least, and but after that, it was pretty smooth sailing from there. There were a few instances I wish I could change. Like there's a few fights that people got into, some drama that was just unnecessary, and it was just I would definitely like to go back and change a little bit of that. But
Hmm.
and it definitely like did kind of suck because like it's you're the team leader. This is all like you brought all these people together, and now it's like they're fighting, and then they got in a fight, and then it's like damn, this is all happening under my watch. This is actually awful.
Right.
So there's definitely a few of those I would like to take back, but what are you gonna do now?
What was it the sort of thing where it's like you had a chance to take a side and you chose to take neither, or is it more along the lines of like you chose to take one side and you sort of regret how that affected the other?
Kind of a little bit of both. Like probably the main instance I think of when people were getting in a fight was we had a fight between our demo at the time and our scout medic, whatever. We were trying to put them on all kinds of stuff. They were it's been so long I can't even remember what the argument was about, but it was about something minor, and like I didn't really want to take either side, but that wound up like just making things worse, I guess. And then eventually one just like straight up left the Discord and everything, removed me, everyone off Steam and all that, and they were just gone. I was like, wow, that was special. So there are some times where like maybe I should have been a little bit more firm as a leader, but I don't know, a little bit late for that now, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you think that people are kind of like being unreasonable though? Like, is it the sort of thing where it's just like they put you in a really difficult spot, or was it more of like a genuine dispute? Do you think?
The one I was referring to, like kind of a bit of both, but there are a few times where it's like I just put it in an unnatural situation. Like I had a medic in season 23 to 24. He went through some stuff. I was not prepared for that at all. I'd I was a dumb teenager still. I wasn't ready for that huge like dump of just trauma where it's like, oh my god, this person's actually like maybe in danger in real life. Like this is actually I'm not ready for that. Like there was sometimes where I'm just put in like an unnatural position, but at least the dispute between the two teammates, that was just a little bit more petty in my opinion. But
Hmm.
yeah,
I see. Do you think were you sort of like mentally prepared for just like the level of commitment and situations you would find yourself in?
no, like I said, I was a little bit like spoiled when it came to the fact that my team had a pretty good track record for the most part. But
Right.
that when shit went down, it was like, oh god, what am I supposed to do about this?
In all honesty, though, do you think there's any being mentally prepared at any point for like TF2 leading, or do you think it's just like there's some really anomalous events like that?
Oh, it sucks. Like it's just if you're doing stuff and you're interacting with strangers online, there's gonna bound to be something stupid to happen. But leading stuff can suck too. Like if you have to get, I'll say the probably the worst moments of me leading are honestly tryouts. Trying to get tryouts, like it's awful. At least nowadays. Well, actually, no. It's always been awful. It's always just really bad. You just need pure luck, or you just know people. Like it's pretty awful. That's probably the worst part. Is just trying to get people to join your team when you only have like a few teammates to
Hmm.
start.
Right, and then I imagine just like what you were sort of describing earlier about just how people act. Like I'd imagine that's like multiplied exponentially for admins and community members, like figures that have a position of authority.
Yeah, I can't imagine what being an admin was like or something like that. Like, no thanks. That's the reason I don't want to do that. Because at
That's
least
fair.
when I'm leading, I was just like, I'm just dealing with my players and maybe some other people, but you're dealing with an entire league now. No, thank you.
So, what would your advice to the community be to sort of alleviate that issue a bit?
I honestly have nothing. That's just you can't really do much about that. People are just gonna be like that sometimes. You have to just be mentally prepared for that if you're gonna be an admin. Leading, it's like I said, it's a little bit more random because you can have like a really good season, and you can also have where it's like, someone's starting to take their life. Someone is like talking about some shit that you probably didn't need to hear, and it's like, yeah, it could get kind of bad sometimes.
Right, right. Like it just sort of blindsides you, yeah. Do you regret your seasons leading looking back at it?
Time wise, a little bit, but outside of the actual experience, I'd say it was pretty fun still. Like I met a lot of good people. We had a lot of good times, and then the team honestly brought everyone together. And even though there's not really much of a team now, at least consisting of the same players, it's still fun to like hang around these people still. So I
Right.
definitely don't regret much. I just regret those those stupid incidents once every while. That's like, damn, this is actually awful.
Right, right. Do you feel like there's enough of a support system in place to sort of help you deal with that whenever those weird sorts of situations did appear?
No, not really. Just kind of like you just hope to God your teammates are going to be there with you. But I admit there are some times where I just felt like I was entirely alone. I had nothing to do, or like there's some times where I'd just be trying to form a team together, and I was just fighting a losing battle all by myself.
So, what do you say maybe the biggest issue with just like the whole competitive side of the community, maybe the community as a whole, isn't like the fact that some of these issues happen, but that it's like you don't really have a support system and you feel so isolated and alone when you have to deal with some of these issues?
Yeah, I'm not sure like how to improve with that, but it just sucks sometimes leading. Like you just get dealt a bad hand.
Right. I would just imagine like more people in the community who do care, like just sort of like talking to each other, actually caring about the community and the other people. Like I'd imagine that would kind of be just what you need to see happen. I don't think that's too difficult.
Yeah, like I can see it because that's just also how you get burnt out of stuff. Like I nowadays, I just don't want to lead. I really don't. Yeah,
Right.
something always dumb happens. Most of the people I play with are starting to get burnt out of the game. It's just not meant to be. But so every time I get put in a position of leading nowadays, it just feels like this is awful. I still want to play the game, but geez, I do not want to lead
Hmm.
anymore. Especially Highlander.
Right.
Actually, no, just in general, honestly. Even playing those like shitty competitive tournaments you see once in a while, like even those are pain.
Do you feel like you can trust other people to lead when you're playing on teams with them? Like if you're not the leader?
Honestly, it's kind of split. Sometimes, like when I see someone else leading, I just have the like, instincts and like, and I think I need to like step in here. But I don't know. I haven't really had many instances where it's like, um, well, I mean, last season when I played Highlander, that was fine. Everything seemed to be under control there. But there are some times where someone's like not doing a good job of leading. It's like, man, I just feel the urge. I need to step in here, but I hate doing that.
So what do they get wrong then? When it's like what kind of triggers that sort of response from you? Like what sort of leadership decisions kind of do you think are poor in that sense?
I have a pretty bad habit with this nowadays too. So, but transparency, I've noticed is something you kind of need to do. Like, because me personally, I'm always in the habit of like, we always scrim this time, But some people like want to know like in advance. Like, you just gotta be transparent with your team, like what's going on and all that. Like, I had a pretty bad habit of just like hiding everything away. But you gotta be transparent with your team. That's for sure.
Right. It's like with some teams, it's just like there's so much kind of like drama behind closed doors, kind of that like nobody's speaking about up front that really divides the team amongst itself.
For sure, I actually had a perfect instance of what you just described during that dispute between the two players in the season one, and at the end of season one of RGL. Like, it was me, my co-leader, and we were just kind of talking. We were just trying to figure out this dispute. No one else knew. So like we just showed up to the next weekend of scrims. Our medic's gone. Our scout's gone. Cause what was it? We moved them the medic. We moved our scout to medic, and then they got someone to play for us for. I I have a theory why they were so eager to play, but yeah, they decided to play for us, and then they just decided to disappear the next weekend. Our entire team did not know until we told them later, and they're like, "Where did they go?" And it's like, well, it's a long story.
Okay. So What made you so successful as a leader? Like, how did you keep B&H alive for so many seasons and establish like a subsection of the community, kind of like your own community within it? Like, what allowed you to do that?
Wow, this is actually kind of random. I think it's just the players I happen to find or just like happen to be like really fun to be around, and they're able to build a community within that. Because I don't know, I wouldn't say there's like I'm like a really great leader or anything like that. I think I just kind of got lucky with the players I was able to pick up and like start like hanging around. Honestly,
Hmm. Do you think it was luck in that regard, though, or do you think it was you just kind of like understanding that okay, these people would be healthy to be around, and these are people that you can sort of build something with?
a little bit of that. I guess a little bit of commitment on my end. Like I had to make sure like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try to keep this going. But I would say it's a little bit more on the people I just happened to find because I only got like a handful of people that are like, oh God, why do I have to be around you? But it didn't happen that often. I just mostly for the most part got like really good people to be around.
Hmm. Okay. And what was the transition to RGL like for you? What are
It
your
was
thoughts on?
weird at first. It actually, when they first dropped that video announcing Highlander, it did not register. I was like, okay, we just lost. What was it? I think we just lost playoffs, season 25. They're announcing RGL, and I'm like, okay. So then I realized, wait a minute, it's just gonna kill UGC. I was like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. So we're like, okay, we're gonna move over to RGL and we'll see how that goes. And it was weird the first season because we went from a playoff silver team to a barely playoff main team. So it was kind of a dip for us. Then we had that drama, like I said, and then so it was definitely a weird transition. But as for scheduling stuff, it wasn't that bad. It was just the only thing that was really different was like there's one last week of the season, I guess, and we were in a felt like we were in a whole different division now.
Hmm. And would you say that was like was it a good or a bad feeling when it came to feeling in a different division? Like how did it
It,
impact you personally?
well, it was just kind of a dip in quality for our team. We lost our pick classes and a few other things,
Hmm.
so we just kind of were worse as a team that season, and we got put in Maine, which you know how that division can be like. So it was a little bit
Yep.
weird for the first two seasons of Maine, but after I got back to Advanced, that felt a little bit more natural.
Hmm. And did you see a lot of older people like funnel out of the game at that point? Like did you not see as many of the same names or teams as before stick around?
Uh, yeah, a little bit of both. Like I did notice a lot of the legacy teams around our like silver legacy teams like us kind of died off. I think Kitty Committee also died season one of RGL.
Hmm.
I think Fireplace like despawned. Who knows where they went? So yeah, I've noticed a lot of people like kind of left, but a few people did like stick around for a good bit. But I did notice like a small dip though. But also like older players come back randomly all the time, so it's kind of like some people leave and they get replaced by other people.
Hmm. Do you think that losing a lot of those older legacy teams did like fundamental damage to the health of the game that it hasn't really recovered to from though?
I don't know if it did damage. It's just more of a bad indicator if the legacy teams are thrown in the towel.
Hmm. I see. Just kind of like an omen of things to come, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if anyone actually, damn, this team's not around anymore. Like that's gonna affect how I play the game. Like I don't think that's the case. I think it's just
Hmm.
like bad indicator, like you said.
Right. Why do you think like some of those old teams threw in the towel at that point instead of being optimistic for RGL Highlander?
'Cause that just means like they're just getting tired of the game at that point. And even in the face of something new and possibly exciting, it's still not enough.
Hmm. Do you think maybe also they were just tired of how things were in UGC though, like, and just didn't feel enough of a change socially with RGL?
Yeah, definitely is. I feel like it's a little bit easier to get burnt out of UGC, especially in the later seasons. Like I heard back in the day, like really early UGC, it was really fun and stuff because the game was getting updated a lot. But like later in UGC, it's like, what are you doing this for? It's just
Right.
like at least RGL, you don't make that much money. Don't get me wrong, but it's at least something to work for to an extent. And you get casted, you get a little bit of you get a little bit of spotlight on you. But UGC, it's like, what am I doing this for anymore? Like later in UGC days, like top plat was like they had some good matches and all that, but like it gets to a point where they're probably thinking like, what's the point of this? Like, there's no money incentive. I'm just kind of wasting time on something that's not even really getting updated that
Right.
much anymore.
And it's like there's a lot of social issues with it as well that UGC just isn't fixing.
Yeah, UGC was just kind of doomed. I think even if RGL didn't come around, I think possibly Highlander might have been screwed even worse if RGL didn't come around. But it's hard.
Hmm.
You can't say for sure.
Right. Do you think RGL like did enough to separate themselves socially from UGC, or do you think it just felt kind of similar to a lot of the people like initially? Like, what was the sort of impression it set for you from your perspective?
People are definitely the same, but you could definitely there's definitely a clear difference between like the two. Like RGL is a little bit more. They put a little bit more depth into it than UGC did. That's for sure.
Right.
Like
It's
even the site looks a little bit more cleaned up than UGC does.
it's like despite some of the decisions being made bad, it's like you sort of feel like you get the sense that like the admins do genuinely care, right? Compared to
Yeah, they definitely
UGC,
put a lot more passion into it. Like there's no more like even like I said when you go on the website, there's no more random SFMs they stole from DeviantArt. Like it's
right?
just nice. It's just a nice clean look.
And there's no more Snowblind Frog or Fortnite just allowing all those issues to persist from an
Yeah,
administrative level.
I don't know what those guys were on. Like, I think they were just doing it just to like continue the grind. Honestly, I don't know what was up with them.
Right.
Like, they're probably from a time when TF2 was probably just coming out, and they're like, "Yeah, this is cool and all. Let's make a league." Because, oh, actually, no, no. Before UGC was originally for like Counter Strike. I'm pretty sure Counter Strike and TFC. So they're just from a different era, and I feel like they just needed to like step down at a certain point.
Right. Do you think things would have been better if things stayed under UGC and the admins just stepped down, like at an earlier point? Do you think we'd see a healthier state of the game?
Yeah, UGC definitely could have been salvaged, but they just didn't want to give it up. So people just decided to make something else, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what do you think the state of the game is going forward for Highlander? Like, what's RGL's next move? How does it turn out? Do you feel optimistic?
Uh, as much as I like the game, it's not looking as good as I'd hope because it's just no one's updating. It's just a matter of if people like the game or not. Like, there's a
Right.
few people I've been talking to that I've played with. They started when they have never seen an update, like a major update. Like the people that started after Jungle Inferno have not seen an update yet. So it's like it's just you have to really enjoy the game and push yourself to get better
Right.
for a game that's not getting updated. It just depends on the person. But like if you're doing it for the incentive, there's no incentive. If you want a fancy badge, cool, but like the money is going to be like really hard to get, and even if you get it, it's not that impressive compared to like other stuff like Dota and Overwatch. So it's like you just have to really enjoy the game. So, and Highlander has like 9 players too, so you have to find like someone to play each class, which I like the format, but it is a lot harder to like keep maintain that than
So,
like other shit.
do you think like because we just aren't going to get that support that we as a community really need to like step it up and just be a lot more proactive in solving everything basically if we're not going to get
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, that's for sure. Like I'm not
yeah
really sure what they can do to say the least, but you're just gonna have to hope to God that people like the game because
I
TF2 is pretty old too. So it's just you kind of just have to hope and get lucky.
I maybe it's time for just like one last community hurrah just to see what we can sort of preserve and establish going forward since it's clear we just aren't getting support from outside. Like maybe it's time for just a ton of people to come together and see what they can do without Valve.
Yeah, we kind of have to find a. I mean, they kind of do that a little bit with the lands, but
Yeah, but I mean like
it's just
just
like
more uniformly, like right, like across formats, across divisions, across leagues, like casually and competitively, and just see what happens.
yeah, it'd definitely be nice. It's just
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just we're fighting an uphill battle. Like you have to just. It's just the game's old. It's just. It's like I don't know. Or
yeah.
even sometimes for like other games where they get the format right, but still people don't give a shit. Like I don't know.
I don't know. The way I see it is like it might be an uphill battle, but there's no downside to trying to fight that battle if you're gonna be playing the game or caring about it in the first place at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth a shot, that's for sure. We don't really have much else we can do. It's
Yeah,
better to like at least try to RGL's at least trying to still push forward when UGC is just like, well, if you want to play, you play. And it's like, okay.
yeah. Okay. Uh, yeah. So, what do you think RGL's best move is going forward to just sort of help preserve or expand things? Like, and what can they do to keep Highlander healthy here?
I guess maybe advertise a little bit. Like this may sound like a little bit weird, but UGC had like those servers that weren't even like connected to UGC. It was really weird, but it like unintentionally like advertised them a little bit. So I just think we need to work on advertising possibly, but then again, like some people just don't care anyways. So I don't know.
Right.
I really don't have a definitive answer for this one.
What about Highlander lands?
Oh God, I mean, that's the problem with the format. It's like it's just I think it's really fun. Honestly, I love the fact that every class has a purpose and can be represented, but God, is it a bitch to like schedule that many people in a LAN
Yeah.
format?
Alright. So, what's something that you think RGL needs to change the most, like, or improve on the most currently? Like, what's the big issue, if any?
I'm actually not sure. I know I personally don't like qualifiers, but that's kind of the only complaint I have, really. I
Hmm.
think qualifiers kind of like put a fence gate over a division that's already struggling.
Do you feel like they're also just, like, not really utilized that well if teams are allowed to throw so much of the time and just either, like, and just sort of get off the chain for it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just spiteful because the second qualifiers they ever did, I got screwed out of going invite, which probably for the best. But it's still, I don't know. I just never had a good experience with qualifiers. I think they're just a bad idea.
Right.
Like I don't know, RGL like as that's one thing that's different about them. They have this weird obsession with like keeping everything to a T. They're like everything has to play out like there has to be this many teams so we could do this playoff structure. It's like I don't know. I kind of just miss the just whatever, you know, like just have as many teams as long as they're there. Like UG, I remember UGT had the opposite problem. They were trying to get people to move up because there was no platinum teams anymore, and now we have the opposite problem where it's
So,
like people trying to go up. They're like, no, screw you. You're not good enough. Shoo.
do you think RGL just sort of, like, pays too much attention to the look of the divisions rather than, like, the health or the function of the divisions?
Yeah, they definitely. Like I said, they probably know something I don't. But it's just they are weirdly obsessed with like just keep everything like perfect. It's like they have OCD. It's like I just don't think it's that serious. Like
Hmm.
maybe it's just me though.
Do you think that's like a representation of a larger issue with RGL as a whole, where it's just like they're so concerned with image that prevents them from doing the more in the way of change?
I don't even know if it's like for the image. I think they just like having the structure like that for reasons. I don't know. Maybe it's just
Hmm.
easier for playoff. I think it all comes down to playoffs for div structure. I mean, how many teams there are, but like God, like I said, it just screws over so many people. Like, you know how many times like a qualifier team just fucking dies because they don't want to go to advance. Like, come on,
Right.
like
Or
it's
it's
just
just
like we're
like,
just pushing people away more than like there's just not enough players to like consistently do that. It's not a good idea.
right. And then it's like you also just see a lot of teams like sort of like, or groups of players that sort of just like get into divs and then they just die over and over again.
Yeah, it's pretty bad sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So you think it's definitely something RGL could like take more of a, like, put it more into their own hands, kind of like directly guide?
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not really sure if there's like a. I could just be seeing it in like too simple of a light, but I just like I said, I just miss the good old days, like
Well,
which is kind of just like it doesn't matter how many teams, as long as there's enough to like maintain a div.
right. I think that's definitely fair. It's like the league's gotta have their own perspective. You're gonna see it from your own perspective, but then it's just like regardless of what the perspectives are, all you can really do is just look at the end results, right, and see the impact that has on a seasonal basis.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's good to just have that out there, though. Just have people sort of thinking about it. Yeah. So what have you been doing in recent times, like in RGL times? You haven't been leading that much anymore, right?
Oh yeah, basically ever since I won season 5, I don't think I've well, okay, I led an off cost team in season 11. That was a lot pretty casual, but season 10, my bad, season 10. But outside of season 5, where like we won advance, like I haven't really been leading that much. I've tried twice. I've tried to get a team together for season 6, it died. Tried to get one together for season 8, it died. So I just kind of like finally just gave up, and I'm leading a sixes team, which is probably gonna die. So
Hmm.
yeah.
What's the change? Why did the pole teams used to live? Like, why don't you feel you're able to lead that much anymore?
Honestly, I think it's just a motivation difference nowadays, but it's
Hmm.
also because obviously some of the players that used to fill in for this just don't play the game anymore. So I don't know. At least for Highlander, if I don't have a demo, that's it. That's it. We can't do anything.
Hmm. Have you considered starting to hire people to play for you?
No, no, I can't afford that.
You just need to get a sponsor. Like, find a company named Paul. They're like a company with the owner named Paul, and
Or
just
there's a gag where it's like the B&H camera company. There's actually a camera company named that.
yeah. And then we also have your famous tax evasion. So I'm sure you could come up with the funds.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I hope I never get a point where I have to pay someone to play. Like that just it's just kind of sad. Like I've seen it a couple times. I'm like, oh man,
Do you
that's just so depressing.
do you what do you think happens if TF2 players get put on wages? Do we see the game revitalize?
I mean, and make them play it at least, but It's hard to say how that would work out, and if anyone can even afford that realistically, unless you're like Sidular or something.
Fair enough. Maybe Sigil just becomes like the TF2 manager, the Highlander manager.
Yeah, that dude's stacked. Like, I wish him and RGL did more like collab stuff.
Yeah, because it's like RGLs, like they always sort of struggle with the financial side of it. Like, and it's like it could really help the league, but I think the Sigiller just wants to do like his own thing, or like has tried to
Yeah,
before, and it just doesn't work. So it's like maybe it could be a time for a shift in approach. Yeah, maybe like try and work with RGL, and if he doesn't like what they do, he could try and like work with them on that or get them to change it. Because financial incentive is financial incentive, and that could be really good for the health of the game.
like the option's probably on the table for him, but I don't
Yeah,
know. He said I'm going to see TFCL's coming back. Maybe that's fucking hilarious.
I feel like I've heard and seen that happen like so many times before. It's like every people are always like, "Oh, he's doing it again." So it's like I don't know, but I would definitely be interested.
I
I,
used to love playing that. I played a season
yeah,
of Sixes, Highlander, 3 seasons of Ulti Duel. It was fun.
dude.
It was also like really goofy because no one cared that much.
From what I've heard, he'd be interested in like paying admins. So it's like, yeah, maybe that could be a really good option for the game.
Yeah, because ETF2L does that. I'm pretty sure, right?
I don't know. Uh, I don't think so, but I really wouldn't be surprised either, given like what the admins have to go to through. Yeah,
I'm not too experienced with ETF12.
yeah.
I remember hearing something like that a while back, so I could be wrong.
Right. So, do you think there's anything like that people really need to hear at this point, like as a community, like or as players, that could really just like sort of help people? Or do you think there's like any big advice you'd have to communities to just sort of come to terms or like try and solve all the issues we're facing?
I don't have any advice, but as a personal level, I guess just try not to overdo it. I guess 'cause I know a lot of people that just like overdo it and get burnt out.
Right? Like it's okay to just take a step back, or to
Yeah,
or to like reach out to other people if you need help, kind of.
yeah, you definitely just you want to still make sure you have that passion for the game because there's a lot of players I used to see that just would launch for competitive. Obviously, some people have a time schedule, so that's different. But a lot of people would just launch just to play competitively, then quit, and then play
Right.
competitive, then quit. It's like there has to be some love for the game in general, at least in my opinion, to
Right.
maintain like a healthy relationship with it.
Do you
Like I
think?
still love playing the game in general, so it works out. But there's just some people that just they just don't have that love for it anymore.
Right. Do you think part of the issue with that is just like people not really feeling like they belong to a specific part of the community, like not really having a subset that they belong to, like I don't know, B and H in your case, or like a class, or just something mutual that they kind of get invested in with other people? Do you think that definitely could play a part in it?
To an extent, like definitely finding I guess your motivations help a little bit too. Like some
Yeah.
people just don't really have anything to like strive for outside of just playing.
Yeah. So like make some friends, just establish a bit of your own community if you want to keep going, kind of like, and that'll help you sustain your interests. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember back when I started, I was just like, I want to place this. That was my one of my top goals of my entire life. It was pretty sad, but I just really wanted to get that fucking placement medal
Right.
so bad. I was like, I'm going to get it, and it took like 4 years, but I finally did it, and it was great.
But now it's just like there just isn't that much to be gained from like right there isn't as much pride, so it's like now you just kind of have to focus on the community aspects of it, right, if you still care.
Yeah, now I mean, because I don't think I'm placing an
Yeah.
invite unless the invite really sucks or I get lucky. I don't think I'm gonna place an invite anytime soon.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
I see. So when can we see B&H expand and gradually take over the community? What?
I don't think so. It's a pretty closed off like community, honestly. Just because like every time there's so many times where I invite like a stranger and it's just always so awkward. I don't know how it happens every time.
That's fair, yeah. Especially when it's like older people, like people who are like just who really have a lot of personal experience, and then it's like other people are kind of coming in. It's like, yeah, not always that easy.
Yeah, like it's just there's just some people I've met in that Discord. They're just like, what even are you? Like it's so weird.
Gremlins. I'm sure that was your impression of me. I am the Gremlin King.
And it's mainly engineer mains, honestly.
You know, I honestly I respect that. That's definitely fair. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like weird sidetrack, but I just felt like I need to share the story. We, we,
All
we
right,
had an
sure.
engineer tryout that was like 42 years old, and he had no idea how Discord worked, and it was just the most incredible thing I've ever watched. Like he sent me this text, like this small paragraph of just jumbled letters and words. I was like, "What are you trying to say?" It was so weird. He had this dude that like 5 seasons of experience too. Like he played in like season 9 and shit, and like, what are you? I don't understand. it was such unusual. Like, and he had like backwards teleporters on upward. It was so strange.
So I guess just like as a few like closing things, like do you feel like all the time you spent in the game has like impacted your own life outside of the game a decent bit?
Yeah, like I said, I just really like keep things in order and
Right.
organized now because of the kind of force habit from
But
bleeding, I
like
guess.
outside of just fleeting, like do you think it's been a good thing for you, or is it more just like a neutral thing?
Yeah, more of a neutral thing. I do feel like I should have maybe spent a little bit more time with
Hmm,
people in real life, but
right.
I mean, it definitely was nice. It definitely helped me like put myself out there and learn how to actually taught me a little bit how to talk to people a little bit more. That's the reason I'm able to just kind of go off on random stuff because I'm just used to talking to people on Discord nowadays because I did it
Right.
for like every day for like 3 years almost, or
Right.
more than that actually.
So it's like, what do you say specifically? Just like the sense of community, being a part of that community, like not necessarily just the game itself or like playing it, is what really helps you. Like really help.
Yeah, definitely the community helped a lot. It's better
Right.
like it being a good community.
Okay. Uh, so do you have any other things you just want to generally talk about? Any tangents? Any questions you want to ask and answer yourself?
Not sure. I mean, do you have anything in mind? Like I could like talk about other like leading shenanigans. It's up to you.
Yeah, sure. Tell me the leading.
Yeah, like that was probably the most like unusual time of my life playing TF2 at least. Like that's just what a pain sometimes. Oh my goodness. Like UGC had its moments, but I feel like that one season of RGL where we won, that preseason was so bad. Like, oh my god. There's so many moments where it's like, why am I doing this still? Like, so I had the bright idea to make a team with Telly, literally just us, a soldier and a heavy. That was what we're working with here. It's like, yeah, what could go wrong? I did it before, literally the same classes too. Like when I first took over B&H, just me and a soldier, same thing. I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's whatever. We'll make an invite team. I would play one season invite, then I'll head out and never play. And maybe I'll just quit the game. I get my one season invited, and then I get to experience that, whatever. And then so we had to get every class. So that was a pain. And there's just so many moments where it's like, wow, it's awful. Like we had this one guy. I think I played him in season 19. He comes back, LFT demo, plays one time, and he's like, "I actually don't want to play this game anymore." I was like, "Oh my god, no! Wait, come back!" And then another time, we had a medic ringing, and I don't know if I should name the names here, but like,
Up to you.
we had a medic ringing. Let's just say he had a lot of experience, and we had a pyro trying out. And he was just like berating them the entire time. And then after that, they're like, "I quit the game." I was like, "What?" And they still have not played since. It's like they just, the TF2 players say they quit the game a lot and they come back. No, they actually quit the game. I'm pretty sure. And it's like, oh, there goes our pyro tryout. So it was just a lot of moments like that. Honestly, it was pretty rough. And then our sniper got banned for posting the Quran on the forums. So we had
Oh
to
no.
play with like another sniper for half the almost half the season. It
Huh.
was so much dumb shit in just that one season. That was just one season, by the way. Like it's just crazy.
Okay. So, do you feel kind of out of place in the present day, just like not really leading teams anymore? Like, do you feel like you've sort of been left behind per se in terms of the social side of the scene?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like a very easy player to forget about, honestly.
Hmm. Do you have any? Does Paul have any plans to rebuild his notoriety, his infamy?
God, I wish. Like honestly, I don't like putting clan tag. I don't put clan tags in my name anymore for obvious reasons. But
What's the obvious
it
reason? Hit me with it.
it's just that that's how people know me now. I did not expect it to get like that, but yeah, people know me as that now. Like even Katrina referred to me that in the podcast you interviewed her, and I was like,
Yep.
wow, this is how it is now, huh? It's
And
like it's just crazy because I did not make the team. It was some random 27-year-old dude in 2016 came up with the name because he liked Futurama,
yeah, but
and
you're the heart of the team, Paul.
yeah, the one that kept it going. But yeah, if there was an opportunity, to make B&H again, like a proper one, I actually would because I actually really enjoyed playing with these people. But it's just I just don't see it happening anymore. Either they're just like done with the game, busy, don't want to. Like I remember I had one player I really enjoyed playing with. He's like, yeah, I just don't want my entire competitive experience to be just playing with you, Paul. I'm like, damn, that shit
Damn.
go hard. But yeah, I guess I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the good leadership experiences you've had? We've covered like a lot of just like the super attention-y, like grabby, like negative ones, but what are some of the good ones, like the positive memories you have from it?
Oh, there's a good amount. Just like winning matches that you think were just unwinnable. Like there's just so many times I've been just utterly relieved about winning a match.
You got an
And
example?
20, like I have a lot of in 23, first season we led, it started off pretty bad. We were down 0-2 already. We lost Borneo week to a team that was like 10 seasons old. We lost Lakeside to a team that was like 10 seasons old. It's like god damn it. Our players are like 10 seasons old. It was pretty rough. And then we slowly started to work our way back up and like we made playoffs, which was really good for our first like I remember one of the matches for playoffs that season that was really important was a triple payload against Quack Street Boys and it's like we somehow pulled through that, and that was just really satisfying. Even though we lost the season at the end of the day, that was still pretty good for like building that team up from scratch and making playoffs. That was pretty nice. So I thought it was only uphill from there. Then we went 4-4, but it's whatever. But the summer season though, season 25, that's when I think we had the probably the best matches. And then I think it started with like against Blue 99 actually, and Goalie Wash Week. That was probably the funniest one because he was just like so adamant on winning that season against us because he was just like talking down to us and all that, and it was like, dude, relax. And it wasn't as bad as other people, but it was still kind of comical. And I wasn't even gonna play that match either. I was gonna go do something with my dad, so I had Chalk playing, and then Chalk dipped, so I had to fill in for my own sub. Else my dad canceled the plans anyway, so I had to fill in for my own sub to play that match. And yeah, we actually managed to pull through on Goalie Wash. Man, I missed that map, but it was just fun. This really was. And then what was it? Probably the best one was against Home Depot that season because that was just like it was a pain because in season 8, well, last week of the season, we they just utterly destroyed us on Cascade because we suck at that map. And then we play them literally the next week for playoffs. So it's like, okay, this could be bad if we don't play our cards right here. So we decided they picked Cascade, of course. That's like literally a good idea for them. And I think we picked Goalie Wash and they picked Vigil because they had a really good win on their Vigil week that season against like black trash bags, and the team like died after that. They were really happy about it. I remember Kegaman celebrating on his stream.
Oh, yep.
So so they were pretty excited to play Vigil too. But we're also good at Vigil. So we play Cascade, immediately get rolled. Of course, what are you gonna do? And we played Goalie Wash after the server lagged out a little bit, and we pulled through that pretty well. And then Vigil comes around, and they're just like, it's getting really intense. And we somehow managed to beat them. And I'm like, okay, guys, don't say anything in chat. And fucking our sniper and engineer automatically say another easy win for B&H because they did that to us on Cascade Week. And oh my god, the other team was just so upset at that. I think like their demo, their soldier, their spy they're all like, dude, these guys are fucking assholes. Fuck them. And I was just like laughing my ass off because like poor Luigi and Kegaman were just sitting there like they weren't really upset, but they were just like I don't know, they were still like confident in winning, but then their team's just like all negative. It was just I don't know why, but that was just a fun moment for me at least because just like I finally like felt triumphant that season, but then we lost like the next week, so it's like what's even the point? But
Oh God.
um yeah, but just stuff like that, and obviously winning season 5 was probably the best too.
Paul.
Yeah,
Okay, I opened up logs.tf to like try and find that log. Logs.tf is kind of messed up right now.
you
I'm
see
not
all
go.
the oh they're still doing that. They were doing that yesterday too with all
Yeah,
the players.
I'm. No video for this. No video for this. I'm cutting that out.
Yeah, rest in yeah,
It's okay.
yeah, they would have been flooding. That's special.
Yeah. So I guess no video for it. But honestly, it doesn't matter too much for this one.
Yeah, it's just you get the idea though. It was just a fun match like that, just
Yeah.
feeling like triumphant. And it wasn't as cool, but that same week, I know I'll get back to this a lot. That same week where we had the drama incident in season 1 RGL, our demo got in a fight with our medic scout, whatever. So we're just down 2 players. We have our sub medic and scout fill in, and we're playing against the number 1 seeded team. Literally zero losses on Borneo, and like, okay, we're gonna fucking lose. And like, there was so I think Psycons was the guy predicting. He did like predictions when that was a thing, if you remember that.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember that. Like the articles. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what happened to those, but Psycons was so confident we're gonna lose. I don't know why he ever said this, but he's like, I'm so confident they're gonna lose. I will eat a Sonic the Hedgehog hat if B&H wins. I was like, I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, I wasn't really that confident. Borneo's was a good map for us, but like, I had a feeling we are gonna lose too. So then we took the first half on them, and we're like, wait a minute, we can win this, and we actually won it somehow against the number one team. We were their only loss that season, and we went like five. No, we went 4-3 and got fifth out of seventh. I mean, yeah, fifth out of seventh that season. But we're
Hmm.
the only loss. I mean, the only loss to the number one team. It's like that was just great.
Did she eat a Sonic the Hedgehog hat?
No, they said it was like dangerous or something. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't
well,
know.
that's
But it was
unacceptable.
funny. It was really funny though.
Yeah, the articles were really fun. I think RGL just like the people writing them got tired of just being flamed for it or something. Though it just wasn't seen as worth it.
Yeah, no one really liked them. They turned them into a meme, but I kind of miss them to an extent.
I like them
Remember
as well.
they? I think was it Michael Lele? I think he predicted in our favor one time, and we lost, and then they just turned it into Brandon's team turned it into copy pasta, and I was like, make it stop. This moments like that where you take you take a win that you against all odds are just the best. Like even grand final season 5, that was like really intense. That was a shit show too. If you want to hear about that, the whole
Sure.
process to that. So basically, playoff season 5 was pretty interesting. Like it started off pretty simple. We just beat the MDS team or whatever. I can't remember what their name was, but that was whatever. Then we played. Then when the main actually. Honestly, the main show wasn't even the grand finals. It was still a tough match, but honestly, just defeating Brandon's team was like more of a pain than it should have been. Because I don't know if you ever heard about this story, but so we're playing them
Oh
on
yeah,
playoffs.
I heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty goofy, but we're playing them on playoffs, and I forgot our maps. I think it was oh boy, what were our maps? I think it was Cascade,
Yep, Cascade was one of them.
Vigil, and what was the last one? I think it was oh Swiftwater. Right, Swiftwater. So we're playing them on Vigil. I think we beat them on Vigil, I believe. And okay, no, first off, we had to put Poseidon on Scout because our Scout's power just went off, and we put Poseidon on Scout before actually. Swiftwater week. We even got approval from the admin. Oh man, if we saved that chat log, we would have saved so much time. But yeah, we'd done it before, so we didn't think much of it, and they didn't have them restricted or anything. Like they would have told us. And so we're playing them on Vigil. We beat them. Then we're about to beat them on Cascade. Like it's close. It's like a 2-1 on Cascade, and they pause. They actually just pause and they're like, I think someone said they spilled water on their keyboard or something, or they said Brandon did something, and they just lied to us. They did not tell us what the actual reason was, and they're like, we're getting an admin, and it's like, what? What do you mean you're getting for what? And so we're sitting there paused for like literally, I think 45 minutes. There's a famous clip from Masking Tape where he's like, "You wasted my night, you wasted my evening." It was really funny, but yeah, we're just sitting there paused for 40 minutes, and they're like, "Oh yeah," I think an admin contacts me, and they're like, "I think it was Micah," and he's like, "Yeah, Poseidon can't play Scout," and it's like, "What?" Because Wall was gone. The Wall was originally the admin, but they were just busy or something, and Space Ghost wasn't responding. So they just get Micah, who was head admin at the time, probably. There's like, yeah, Poseidon can't play Scout. I'm like, why did you not tell us this? What? So they actually make us reschedule the goddamn match to another day. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. They let us keep the win on Vigil, thank God. But like, they actually make us move the match, and we lost all of our match points. So if they just magically adapt to our team, we were screwed. Like, what the hell is wrong with them? So like, after 40 minutes, they make us reschedule to another day, and then this time, and Poseidon's not even gonna be there either. Like he's busy because it was like around Easter, so we didn't even have him to play. So we just got our team back, and then we somehow won. We beat him instantly beat him on Cascade, and that was just awesome. And that was it. That entire like little show to like delay the match for some reason, like was all for nothing, and it was awesome because no one really liked Brandon's team.
I think nobody likes Brandon in general. Guy's a
Yeah,
total
like
creature.
yeah. So it was just a very nice. Even the grand finals, the grand finals match, it wasn't. It was still a tough match, but it's just nothing beats like beating Brandon's team like that because they were supposed to be the number one team. They didn't take a single loss in the normal season, so it was
Hmm.
just awesome.
How did it feel to be the heroes of RGL for a bit?
It was nice. I know don't really care that much. But it's just nice to see like someone that's like BM me my entire competitive career almost, just finally just take an L for once and just
Yeah,
go away. Like it was great.
you got to slay the gremlin.
I'm not sure what his deal was, but he never really liked me for some reason.
Oh,
I didn't do anything to
that
him.
guy's just also always been an awful person, along with a decent bit of his friend group.
Yeah, I didn't get it, but I just wanted to play the game, so I'm just glad I got it over with. And
That's
obviously, then we won in grand finals, and that's probably the highlight. And
hmm,
yeah, that was a fun night.
glad to hear it. So, what would your ideal map pool be?
Map pool, huh? I think it's pretty good now. It's just the Koth map's pretty back and forth whether they hate Lakeside or Cascade more.
What if they removed a Koth and added Millstone? Would you be appeased?
I would I'd be down for it, but I know for a fact 80% of the community would probably be like, this is dog shit.
It's okay. I'll get all the community. I'll be like, you can only be interviewed if you agree to support Millstone. I will turn this into a cultural movement, Paul. You have my word.
I wish. I just need to do more XP cups. I don't know what happened to those. I think qualifiers get in the way, dude. It all
Oh
goes
yeah.
back to qualifier. But I do think there is something that could maybe be done. I don't know if this would fuck with their whole like shtick, but like I think something that would be kind of neat is if we got the 8 weeks back instead of 7, and we could have like an extra map. Then maybe that would throw like a wrench into things. Like maybe bring back a 5 CP, even though also no one
Oh
really
yeah.
likes that.
That'd be awesome. Like the Game Master one's gonna be going up like a bit before this one. It's like yeah, no, like that one. There's so much depth to 5 CP, like just so much creativity
Oh,
and dynamics.
is he gonna be talking about the level 3s on process?
Yes, it's just like you don't get to see that sort of stuff as much. Like yes, it's a bit of a chore, but it's like it's so awesome to just have that more dynamicism and just have people be challenged. You know?
Yeah, like it throws a mix into things. I honestly think
Right.
it's always nice to like play. I know it's a little bit stalematey, but I don't know. It was fun.
Well, I don't know.
Except Vanguard. I hate Vanguard.
So much of our current metagame is just like not that good though, you know, it's just like so boring and stale as it is, so like what's the harm in going to 5 CP at this point? So we can
Yeah,
get
just
some weird tech.
mixing it up because outside of like RG hasn't really mixed it up that much. The only thing they really changed was Cascade looks different. Uh, Asheville looks different, and Borneo got replaced with Vigil, which I'm fine either way. I actually kind of like Borneo, despite
Yeah,
everyone else hating it.
I like Borneo too. I don't know. It just feels like we're so like afraid of just playing anything outside of the currently established meta maps that's like and we're so afraid of just like actually learning how to play the game in different ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I think. Yeah, it definitely sucks sometimes, but it's just
Yeah.
also there's not many like really good Highlander because I don't think there's really many maps built around
That's
Highlander. Like
true.
Cascade was originally a fours map. Like what the hell? Like how did we get to this point?
Yeah, and I do agree that that's true, but then it's like I feel like the quality of the maps is sort of degraded a bit if it's like we just play them for an eternity, like they get solved. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
I've
like
noticed because we're getting to the point where people are changing like little minor things on Upward and stuff, and it's like, oh boy,
yeah, I don't
here
know.
we go.
I feel like it would just be interesting. Like it could draw interest back, even if it's like not the best per se. Like it's also not the best to just keep doing the same ones over and over again.
Because that's one thing I think UGC kind of did a little bit better because they weren't really like professional, so they kind of just had seasons, but they just goof around with the map pool.
Right. And
Like there's I think season 10 UGC it was so like goofy they didn't even it's not even marked on any player's experience because it was just that goofy of a season.
hmm, I'd imagine that really helps just like revitalize interest in the game, like maybe even for more casual players, rather than like just trying to appeal to a sense of false professionalism that you'll never have. Just like let it be the community, you know?
Yeah, I just want to see more like XP cups because I want to see more
Right.
maps. Like UGC had such an incredible map pool over
Oh,
there for a bit. Now most of them were shit. Don't get me wrong, but they do look fun.
oh, actually, how do you feel about that? About like just RGL trying to establish professionalism rather than just like doing more community things? Do you think that's kind of like a step in the wrong direction, like a battle that they'll never really be able to win?
I'm kind of split on it. I like the idea of it, but it's kind of a tricky thing to tackle and TF2 when
Right.
it comes to TF2 players at least.
And I think that's just like not work. I don't think it's really that good for the game compared to just doing a community thing and doing it well. You know what I mean? Like it's just not really what the game is about. It's not about. It's not the spirit of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it. It could go either way, but there are
That's
sometimes I
fair.
think they go a little bit too hard and stuff.
Well, I don't know. I can kind of agree with it from just like an administrative level, like when it comes to punishments, but then just like the overall league of the goal, like I feel like it's just hurt by that sense of false professionalism.
Yeah, dude. But at the same time, there are some times where they are like too lenient. Sometimes it's strange how they can be both. But I think
Yeah.
that they're a little bit too lenient with cheaters sometimes. Where it's like, oh yeah, you can come back, and it's like, why? What? What do you
But
mean they can come back?
fine individual. I wonder if they will cheat again for for benefit.
Yeah, it's like we're not. I don't know, but I guess at that, if you're gonna ban someone permanently for cheating, you gotta make sure they're cheating. Because I've seen a
Yeah.
few oopsies from a UGC team before. It's like, oh yeah, they actually maybe weren't that. Maybe they weren't cheating actually. But it's rare. Most of the time they're on point though. I think they do
Right.
get a bad rep.
All I'm saying is, if you permaban everybody, you would have no. If you permaban people, you would have no snipers left.
Oh, true. Yeah, snipers are like always get accused the most. It's
Yeah.
oh god.
No, like not even that. Like some of them were cheating in the past, but then they don't cheat now. So it's like if you ban all the cheaters permanently, like I don't think you'd have any sniper mains left, Chief.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. But
Yeah.
it is just weird sometimes how people just come back like nothing happened.
Oh yeah, for sure. Uh, do you think that RGL could also do more in the way of like community cups as well, like the old community versus pros thing, like sixes versus Highlander? Like,
Oh,
do you think that
I
helps?
remember that. Holy shit! I remember those seeing those medals. Those were so
Right.
cool. Uh, yeah, if they had the time for it, I don't know about the pros versus the stars or whatever anymore,
Right.
but I just want to see more cups. Like just it's a summer, like I mean, it's a little bit tricky in the middle of the season, I guess, but I just
Right.
like to see more random stuff. Get the community like hyped for it, like get their attention, rather than just like two random teams like one
Right.
get rolled on Upward on Twitch.
So that's kind of what I mean, though, when I'm talking about that sense of professionalism. Like, do you think it maybe prevents them from doing just like those sort of things that are really important for community with the community? Instead, they just try and do a few things here and there as like show games between for the community.
I don't know. I think they could do both. They
Yeah,
can still like you can still be professional with like some cups. Like I don't know.
but they aren't. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, you could definitely do both. Like you don't have to be like super serious, which I don't think they're trying to do, considering they uploaded a video to YouTube. It's like just an hour long shit
Oh no,
post.
that
Like
was just purely because of Maven. Like Maven's not on the video team anymore, and they just don't do anything like that at all. No.
I know, but the fact that they let them do it means they're not that serious
Right, but
about
it's
it.
like
But
nobody's stepping up to the plate and kind of doing those things for the community. I mean, with the community.
yeah,
Okay. Do you have any like closing thoughts, sentiments, other things you want to talk about or add?
uh, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything unless you have any questions.
Not particularly. I think we got a lot of the scope of it. Yeah, I think it was really nice to just have a bit of a heavy talk for a bit. Yeah,
For sure.
get the B&H lore out there. You got any other parts of like the B&H manifesto that you want or story that you want to have up here before we stop?
I guess just to highlight a reel of like the players I've experienced. I guess
Yeah, run it down.
just a quick one. It's mainly engineer players, but oh boy, it's hard to say because I don't want to say their name, but there's I don't know if I'm like it would be like safe to say their name, or I mean say the story they're known for, but not their name. I don't know if that'd be appropriate or not.
I trust your judgment on it.
Well, well, that could go wrong, but I'll give it a shot, I guess. So I mean, not much really happened at the start. Season 19 player wise, everything was fine except our leader. Our leader was like, oh, he was so unhinged. He was like this 19-year-old who was just like, ah man, he was just so obsessed with everything. He was just so we had a lot of back and forth with him. His sixes experience was a different story. I wasn't around for that, but when he came back in season 22 to help me and Lorgon lead, there's so many moments where it's like, what are you doing? Like so he introduced me to a player called Guac. Great guy. I'm glad I got to meet him. Like, he played like 3 seasons with me, and they were making a fours team with Guac, and they're like, it wasn't. They were trying to sandbag and steal or some shit or silver, and it wasn't going anywhere. It was like they were struggling with to get in there because of the admin or something. It was taking too long, so I just said, Guac, do you just want to play for me? He's like, we can play gold fours, we can suck, but we can get a gold badge. And he's like, yeah, sure. Phoenix just my old leader, he just absolutely hated that. He's like, my friends list is not your recruiting ground, Paul. And I was like, what are you talking about? And we had a Minecraft server, right? This is where things get really fucking funny and petty. So he goes on the Minecraft server. I made a marijuana leaf for 420 because I thought it was funny. That's also the date the UGC page was created for B&H. He burns it down and he shuts down the Minecraft server. And he's like, "This is an even trade, Paul." I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You are insane."
You've dishonored his bloodline.
Yeah,
This is a feud.
he literally messaged someone. He's like, "I see this is an even trade."
What?
I was like, "No, what? I can't believe you."
The Minecraft villain.
And that was our leader, by the way. Thank God Lorgon took over for the most part that season, but God, he was something. He almost killed the team. That's the whole reason Lorgon became mainly the leader because he just gave up within like a couple weeks of leading. Oh God, man.
All I'm saying is Minecraft servers are sacred. Come on. How
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
hit the
that
Minecraft
was
server?
messed up. I was showing our pyro that we just picked up around the server too, and I just see him burning down my shit in the background. I'm like, what is wrong with
Wait,
you?
wait, wait. Okay, that's really good though. Your Pyro Trout, did they use Air Blast on it?
I wish, but no, not quite.
Okay. If they did, they should have instantly gone to the spot. It was like it could be one of those things where it's like a test, you know.
Yeah, it was not a good first impression for that guy, but he didn't really stick around afterwards, anyways.
The chance was there though, you know. You gave the opportunity.
The worst part is my leader. He's still around to an extent. I think he's on his third alt account. He's still lingering out there somewhere, and
Oh
I have
shit.
no idea where he is.
Oh god, oh fuck.
Like, I actually ran into him one time. I was like, "Oh no!" I thought he quit the game, but no, he's still there. He doesn't care as much as he used to, but he's definitely still lingering to some extent, and that's not good.
I expect to just like randomly receive a message one day.
I hope not, but yeah, just to know that people sometimes just they never truly leave sometimes, and that's horrifying.
Yeah, especially in this community, it feels like person gets banned, they're just or like person's just not that great. Like they just end up having such a hyper fixation on the community. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're trapped here. I don't know if I ever got permits for some godforsaken reason, I'd just be gone. Like
Yeah.
who cares?
Got the ghost of fuck out Christmas present over here.
Yeah, like I don't get the point. But
Oh.
that was I just can't get over that was my leader. I don't know, man. Shit was weird.
Look, all it takes is one bad day.
Yeah, thank God. I mean, honestly though, the worst part is less weird people were around when he was leading, but when I got a lead, that's when all the when that's when all the weird people started to show up. Was when I started the lead. It's like, God damn it, man! I can't win. Like
Yeah.
we had a sniper. This is before I led. My bad. I instantly made a mistake, but he was like in the army, and like I don't know what happened to him. Was playing a steel scrim for us, and he like said "be right back," and he still has not come back.
What the
I don't know. I don't know where he went. Haven't seen him. His Steam account literally got deleted too. I was like, what the fuck? It's so strange.
only only team leading. Only team leading.
Oh, and also our leader also had thought it was a bright idea to have a platinum engineer sandbag on our team as like on an alt, and I was like, we're gonna get in trouble for this. But thankfully they just he made it so obvious too. But literally our first season of Highlander, we did have a platinum engineer sandbagging a little bit. He was like a sub, and it's like, what are we doing? So stupid. Then there
Sounds
was
like it.
our pyros that were kind of weird too sometimes. Like we had this one. I'm really not gonna name names for this one, but he had a obsession with feet, and let's just say he made a pretty
Oh.
suggestive idea about another teammate who was a girl, and we're like, okay, you need to get out of here now, go away. So we we actually like removed him from the premise because of that, because he's just like, I want to see your feet, and it's like, no, go away, shoo. It's one thing if it's a joke, but it was one thing if it's a joke, but he's actually into that, so it's like, no, get out of here.
What if we banned all the pyro mains?
Well, well, I mean, that would have saved us saved a few people from some bad experiences, but it's honestly just the engineer main still. I just can't get over them. They're so strange. And
Hmm.
we had a pretty strange engineer main. You probably know him. I'm not gonna name names, but that dude like
Oh,
I'm pretty sure I'm like pretty sure he actually tried to kill someone in real life, and I was like,
yep.
oh no, he's on my team.
I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, it's like he's on my team. Oh,
And
nice.
you know what? He is awfully close to me. Oh god, oh fuck.
Yeah, that's special, isn't it? But thankfully,
Yeah.
I mean, he probably I don't think I think he just plays casual now. I think he actually just gave up on the game. I don't blame him, but Yeah, it was just another weird moment. It's like this dude tried to kill someone. He's on my team. Cool.
Are there any interesting like community initiatives or projects that you can think of that you would like to bring attention to?
Community projects, huh?
Yeah.
Hmm. Not that I can think of. Like, there's a few cool like TF2 mods that no one really plays, but like, no, not really. Outside just to pay attention to the map creators, I guess.
Hmm. That's definitely
Like,
fair.
I'd recommend always taking a trip to the workshop once in a while, see what's going on. Like, if you ever check the Steam activity feed with me added on your friends list, you'll probably see me add like 4 things at a time. Because the workshop just always has a new supply of stuff, so I recommend checking out that sometimes.
What do you think of the new like map testing thing our Vibe is Vario is doing?
Oh, was that the one where they did the pugs or whatever on that one map?
Yeah, basically like all the pugs. Yeah, like CP Rapids is the most prominent.
Yeah, Rapids. I couldn't think of it, but yeah, that's a good idea. I just wish they like did they like stop doing those or something? Like,
No, no,
uh,
it was a recent thing. You might have been thinking of Maven's video team Funny Pugs. That were
oh yeah,
like
that was it.
okay. Um, yeah, okay. I definitely feel like that's pretty good. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I think that should be it now. I've kind of run out of things to say
Okay.
before it gets to the point where I'm just kind of treading over the same ground. Unless you have anything you want to ask specifically.
No, it's kind of difficult because there's so many things they always could bring up, but then it's like I don't think all of them are always like that relevant for that person, right? Like it's like not everything needs to cover like the same sort of scope per se.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think this one definitely has some good like sentiments and message all throughout. Like I don't think I need to really add anything else on. Yeah. Okay. I will end the recording then.